Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of Realms Remembered. This is Michael T. Bradley back with you once again. So we're going to cover at least a couple of books today. Let's look at 1356, Streams of Silver. That's the second in the, chronologically, like in our world, that's the second Drizzt book that was published. Second of the Icewind Dale trilogy, back when I believe it was still intended to be a trilogy focusing on Wulfgar's progression as a character rather than Drizzt. And then, of course, Drizzt became ridiculously popular, and they realized what a commodity they had on their hand, and they were like, franchise the hell out of this. So let's see, first thing that's a little odd, it's called the Icewind Dale trilogy, yet pretty much immediately into Book 2, we're out of Icewind Dale. Actually, I guess it's the epilogue of Book 1 we're leaving Icewind Dale. No, we're back here a little bit, because then Trary goes to Icewind Dale, and he kills a couple of people, and he has the, run in with Catti Bree, and he takes her along, and he doesn't take her along, but she winds up with him eventually. So as I mentioned before, my problem when I first read this was just, Drizzt took down a friggin' demon, and I'm just not at all, there's no tension about him versus an assassin, and of course that's not what Salvatore is trying to do. Salvatore is trying to show this dark reflection of himself, and kind of the fear / interest he has in going over to that dark side. I thought, however, this theme was explored way more fully and way more interestingly with Zaknathan from the original trilogy, which of course was written later, but when we look at it this way, it was the original trilogy. So I gotta wonder, did Salvatore feel that Entrary didn't do what he wanted him to do, and that's why he wrote Zaknathan? Or when he went back and wrote that original trilogy, did he think, well, Entrary works so well that I'm gonna just make another character like that and make it a father figure for Drizzt as well, so that way Entrary isn't just a reflection of Drizzt, but he's also like just to drive home that this is what Drizzt could become, make it his father as well. I don't know, it to me it just plays a little weak, because it's like Zaknathan I think is a far more interesting character. So far anyway, Entrary is just this evil guy, and that's whatever. So the main plot, Bruenor the dwarf tricks Drizzt into, which I love, it's like, you're gonna give up your life for me and go on this horrible adventure, and we could all die, and I'm gonna put everyone I know and love in danger, but I'm gonna do it through a trick, and it'll be funny. Oh, dwarves. So the whole point is them going after Bruenor's, the hall of his home where he went as a young kid, Mithril Hall, and then they were driven out or something, blah, 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 blah. They go and they find it, and it's been taken over by a dragon, and da-da-da-da-da. Let's see, a few things. See, right now I'm 3/4 of the way through Halfling's Gem, so I'm trying not to talk about Halfling's Gem stuff while I'm talking about this. Overall, it was kind of whatever, very, very skimmable. One part that I really liked was that are denied entrance to, I think it's Silvery Moon, and Drizzt and his party, basically because of Drizzt, and Drizzt and his party are sitting out on a hilltop afterwards, and Drizzt is reflecting upon his life and what he's doing with it, and how possibly the reason that he keeps getting in trouble like this is because he deserves it for defying nature. And I just thought, as a ranger and as a nature lover and a follower of Kiki or whatever, this made so much sense and it worked really well, and I thought that was a really good scene. However, that's one scene in an entire book. I mean, for the most part, it's just Salvatore has this way of overwriting everything, and it is so frustrating. Third-person omniscience, right off the bat, kind of throws me off, but I'm getting more used to it because so many of these books use it. And then beyond that, just the kind of, it's tongue-in-cheek for really simple people. There's a lot of tongue-in-cheek stuff, but it's so obvious. It's dude, we get it, move on. So I don't know, it's definitely, it's not horrible, and there are little bits and pieces here and there that really shine, but for the most part, I don't get why people like these. Obviously, if you really like it, respond, let me know. Glad to hear opposing viewpoints, love to hear them, interested in other people's takes. The other book I want to talk about, 1357, Azure Bonds. Now, I have heard from multiple people that this is a pretty good book, so, I was hoping for something when I got into it, and holy crap is this book good. And I looked it up, and it was released in 1988, which is the same year that Crystal Shard came out. So this was, even if Crystal Shard was the first D&D TSR Forgotten Realms book, then this was really close behind. So now I'm totally confused, because if you'll recall, my theory was that perhaps Crystal Shard was so much more popular with people because it didn't just focus on humans. Well, Azure Bonds, the main character is human, but as we find out through the course of the book, and I don't want to spoil it for you, oh, you know, hell, I'm not worried about spoilers here. If you're listening to this, stuff's gonna get spoiled, okay? I'll just go ahead and tell you that right now, because I've spoiled tons of other stuff, and it's like, I'm not gonna stop spoiling simply because I liked the book. So our main character appears to be human, but by the end we realize that she's not. I mean, there's a huge argument in it about if she has a soul, did that make her human? But she is not a human born of man and woman, let's put it that way. There's a dinosaur, a saurial, who speaks in scents. There's a halfling bard, aspires to be a bard, and this was the one time where I really got hung up on the fact that it's 2nd edition, because they're like, there are no halfling bards, and I'm like, what? Why aren't there halfling bards? And it's like, oh, that's right, because in 2nd edition, there were all those weird qualifiers on races and classes, like your elf paladin couldn't ever go above 12th level for some reason. Like, it's just, he learned that much, and then he was like, well, maybe I'll take up gardening. I mean, I don't know, it never made any sense, but I think it was like power level thing, it just didn't work in 2nd edition, whatever. Remember all those weird, like, different XP charts? God, those were strange days. So, and then another human from the south, I believe, a wizard, a mage of some sort. Which that's another thing, in all these earlier books, you'll get the term sorcerer used interchangeably for wizard, which is just weird if you're, 3rd edition player on. So as you can see, not a human-heavy group, and the writing is like 10 times better than Salvatore's stuff. I mean, just incredible. Okay, so I have one little bit bookmarked here that I'll read for you. This is just a tiny, tiny sample of some of the great bits in here. The only difference, she thought, between a magic user's pockets and those of a small boy's is that there is less week-old candy in the mage's pockets. Isn't that great? That's just such a... That's one of those things that shows the authors really understand the D&D world, yet are also really good authors. And it had stuff like that throughout the entire thing. Maybe not as good as that. That was the only one I bothered highlighting. But lots of really nice moments, really nice observations, and the interplay in the party works really well. You have differing motivations, and it doesn't feel forced at any time, which I was really appreciative of. My only real problem is possibly that that there's a battle with a risen god that occurs about 2/3 of the way through the book that I think is far more epic and far bigger of a climax, because also during that we learn most of the mystery of the book, which is who is Alias and what are these designs on her arm and so on and so forth. The Azure Bonds, if you will. And I think that fight is way more epic and way more interesting than anything through the climax. So that's kind of a problem, but the climax doesn't feel bad or wrong. It's just kind of like, after that section, you're like, well, shouldn't we be done now? But still, I would much rather have a strong first 2/3 of a book with an amazingly epic scene in it than a weak build-up and a strong finish. I mean, it's if the finish is really strong, I could probably forgive it, but by then I've probably given up. So as I say, this book really presents a problem for my earlier theory that the Crystal Shard became popular because of the fact that it focuses on non-humans more than most of these books, because Curse of Azure Bonds does the same thing, and it's far better written, far more interesting, far more entertaining. I don't get it. Maybe with the 2nd and 3rd books, the quality drops off intensely. Oh, and the 4th book, there's at least one in the Harper series, I think, Masquerades, that is these same characters, at least mostly. That's what it looks like anyway. So, I don't know. I'll be curious to find out. And maybe it was the fact that this was based on a computer game, so people took it less seriously. I don't know. I really don't understand it, and it frustrates me to no end, because, like, if I had 16 books of Alias and Olive and Akbar and everything to look forward to, I would be far more excited than, the prospect of Drizzt for that much longer. It's frustrating, because Salvatore is much like Greenwood in the fact that they both seem to love what they do. have a great time writing their stuff, and, you know, I think if they could pump out twice as much as they did, they would be even happier, but it's like, oh, it's not very good. And I keep reading the Driz stuff because I'm like, there's just so much of it. I can't imagine it's going to stay this bad forever. Plus, it ties into things so much. And as I might have mentioned before, really excited about the next series because that'll tie into Time of Troubles. We'll get to see Lolth as an avatar, which should be fun. I think it could be interesting. I mean, I don't like Menzabazanazarazamazamazamam, but the idea of Lolth as an avatar strolling the streets, that could be intriguing. I don't know why everybody wouldn't just beat the crap out of her. You know, be like, you didn't back my spells when I went up against House Bainra. Bam, bitch! Taking you down! I mean, come on, like, she's a chaos god. Like, she should welcome that if she sticks to her alignment and everything, right? Whatever. Alright, so I thought we might discuss maybe one more, but it looks like I've talked way more than I thought I would about these two, so I'm going to leave it there. Again, I really, really welcome your comments and feedback. I want to hear what you guys think, and I want to hear how your opinion differs from mine, if it does, or if you think I'm spot on, or, you know, what would be the best is if any of these reviews inspired you to read something. I totally want to hear about that. I would love that. Okay, awesome. Have a good time, and I'll talk to you later. This is Realms Remembered.